Back away, pedo. That's what my little sister screamed at me in front of her entire middle school while I was just trying to deliver the mail. I froze. Every kid turned to stare. One teacher looked ready to call the cops. And the worst part? She meant it as a joke. My name's Dan. I'm 27 years old, a mail carrier for USPS, and for the past 2 years I've also been the sole guardian of my 13-year-old sister, Lily. She was just a kid when our lives went to hell. Mom got sick with cancer and was gone within 6 months. Dad didn't last much longer. He drank himself into a coma and never woke up. I wish that was an exaggeration. I was 25, single, broke, and still taking night classes for a business degree I'll probably never finish. I had no idea how to raise a child, let alone deal with the mess our parents left behind. But Lily was 10 and there was no one else. No grandparents. No uncles stepping up. Just me. So I stepped up. I gave up school. I picked up extra shifts. I took her to therapy appointments, cooked what I could, learned how to braid her hair from YouTube, and faked confidence I didn't feel so she wouldn't see how scared I was. My apartment isn't much: 2 bedrooms, tiny kitchen, water heater that rattles like it's haunted, but it's ours. She's my responsibility. My world. Which is what makes what happened today feel like someone jammed a screwdriver into my chest and twisted. It started off like any other miserable weekday. My supervisor, an absolute troll who gets off on power tripping, assigned me a new route last week that includes the local middle and high school. That's where Lily goes. I didn't think much of it at first. Thought maybe I'd catch a smile from her between classes, maybe a "Hey, Dan," in the hallway. A rare little perk in an otherwise soul-crushing job. Yeah. No. Instead, today I'm hauling this awkward armful of mail through the chaotic middle school hallway, kids running, screaming, phones out, when I hear a voice cut through the noise like a dagger. Back away, pedo. Time froze. I turned my head and saw her. Lily, my little sister, pointing at me, laughing. She was standing next to her friend Maddie, both of them red-faced from how hard they were giggling. It wasn't even just a joke, it was a performance. Like they planned it. Every head turned. Every whisper felt like an earthquake. One teacher, Ms. Thompson, I think, walked up fast, her expression already tightening like she was ready to call the cops. My voice cracked as I tried to explain. I'm her brother, I said. I'm a mail carrier. USPS. I'm just delivering. She's kidding, I added, but my face was already burning. The looks didn't go away. The whispers didn't stop. Lily just stood there, arms crossed, smug little smirk on her face like she'd just pulled off the greatest prank in history. I've had knives pointed at me in this job. Been bitten by dogs. Fallen down icy steps and once got hit in the back with a basketball thrown by some high schoolers. But none of that compared to this, being humiliated by the person I thought I was protecting. When the teacher walked away, I turned to Lily and said, "Give me your phone." Her face dropped. "What?" "You heard me," I said. My voice wasn't loud, but it was sharp enough to cut through her little crowd. "Hand it over." She hesitated, then yanked it from her pocket and slapped it into my palm like I just declared war. Her friend looked stunned. Lily stormed off, hair swinging behind her like a flag of defiance. I finished my route like a ghost. Couldn't think straight. What if someone believed her? What if I lose my job over a kid's joke? What if she doesn't even realize what she just did to me? I walked the rest of the route on autopilot, my fingers frozen around every envelope, every package, every damn reminder that this is my life now, barely scraping by. Raising a teenager who thinks it's funny to scream the most dangerous word you can say about a man, especially one who works around children. I thought I was her brother, her protector, her only family. Turns out I'm just the punchline. When I got home that evening, Lily was already in her room with the door half shut, headphones on, pretending I didn't exist. Classic move. I stood in the kitchen holding her phone like it was radioactive, trying to decide what the hell to do with it. I didn't want to go nuclear. I didn't want to yell. But my hands were still shaking. I ended up making her favorite dinner, pasta with the good jar sauce, the one that costs more than I like to spend. I thought maybe we could sit down, talk it out. Maybe she'd apologize. She walked into the kitchen, looked at the food, then turned away without saying a word. Not thanks, not even a grunt. Just grabbed her plate and vanished back into her room. That's when I finally snapped. I followed her down the hall and knocked once before pushing the door open. She was on her bed, scrolling TikTok on her backup iPad. When she saw me, she pulled the headphones off with exaggerated annoyance. "What now?" she asked, like I was the one being ridiculous. "Why did you say that today?" I asked. My voice was low. I was trying to keep it together. She rolled her eyes. "It was just a joke." "Chill." "A joke?" I asked, holding up the phone. You screamed pedo in a public hallway while I was working. Do you understand how dangerous that word is? Oh my God, you're so dramatic, she muttered. No. You don't get to say that, I said, stepping closer. Do you have any idea what could have happened if someone believed you? She shrugged and flopped back on her bed like she was bored already. It was Maddie's idea. We thought it would be funny. Funny? My voice cracked. You think it's funny to accuse someone of being a pedophile in a school? In front of your teacher? In front of all those kids? Silence. Do you know what they would do to someone like me if I didn't have a badge? If someone called the cops before I had a chance to explain. I asked, do you think CPS would let me keep custody of you if that stuck? You want to go live in foster care again, Lil? At that, she sat up, her face hardening. Don't use that against me. I'm not using anything. I'm telling you how serious this is, I said. You could have ruined my life today. She stared at me, arms crossed. You're being over the top. Nobody believed it. You don't know that. I barked. You don't get to decide what people believe. That teacher didn't laugh. The other kids didn't laugh. You made a spectacle out of me. And for what? So you could look cool in front of your friend. Maybe I wouldn't need to make jokes if you weren't always embarrassing me, she snapped back. That stopped me cold. Excuse me. You show up at my school looking like that, your dumb uniform and your stupid cart. Everyone knows who you are. Everyone sees you. It's weird. So, being a mailman is embarrassing? I asked quietly. She looked away. Whatever. I just stood there stunned. All those nights staying up with her when she had nightmares. All those early mornings packing her lunch. The homework help. The money I didn't have but spent anyway so she could go on that class trip. I was the reason she still had a roof over her head and food on the table, and I was weird? Embarrassing? I nodded slowly, holding her phone tighter than I meant to. Okay, I said. You can consider yourself grounded. Phone's mine until further notice. No tablet, no TikTok, no hanging out with Maddie. She gasped like I'd stabbed her. What? You can't do that. You're not even a real parent. The words hit me like a punch to the throat. She didn't apologize. She didn't take it back. She just sat there, breathing heavy, defiant. I turned away, afraid of what I might say next. I closed her door and went back to the kitchen, sat at the table, and stared at her untouched plate of pasta. Not a real parent. That one really sunk in. I've been to every parent-teacher conference, signed every permission slip, paid every bill. I gave up my 20s to raise her. And that's how she sees me? Maybe she's just a kid. Maybe she was lashing out. But it felt like something broke between us in that moment. Something I don't know how to fix. And the worst part? I don't know if she even wants me to. The next morning, I didn't say a word to her. Not when she walked past me in the kitchen. Not when she groaned loudly because there were no Pop-Tarts. Not when she slammed the bathroom door after I reminded her her tablet was part of the grounding. I didn't have the energy. I grabbed my mailbag and left early. My hands were still shaking when I climbed into the truck. That kind of rage doesn't just go away overnight, it settles in your stomach like acid and stays there. By noon, my supervisor was already riding my ass again for not meeting some made-up efficiency quota. I could barely concentrate. My body was on autopilot, scan, sort, deliver, while my brain replayed Lily's voice in my head over and over. You're not even a real parent. The thing is, I already had doubts. All the time. I'm 27, barely scraping by, living in a crap apartment with duct tape on the windows and furniture from Craigslist. I don't have a college degree, no savings, no plan beyond survive the week. And now the one person I'm killing myself to protect thinks I'm a joke. I almost didn't check my phone at lunch. But something told me to. The first thing I saw was a text from my neighbor. Hey, just a heads up, some parent called me asking if you're Lily's brother or her dad. Sounded weird. Everything okay? My stomach dropped. I scrolled down and found 2 more texts from the school. One was a generic notification about a student behavioral report. The other was a request to schedule a meeting regarding a recent incident involving a visitor on school grounds. I knew what it was about. Of course I did. By the time I got back to the post office, I was barely holding it together. I stopped by the school the next morning on my day off, wearing my best jeans and a button-up shirt, trying not to look like the guy who just spent the night stress sleeping on his busted couch. I sat across from the vice principal, this tired-looking woman with a clipboard and a fake smile face that I instantly hated. So, she said, flipping through papers, we're here to discuss an interaction that occurred in the hallway earlier this week involving your sister, Lily. I nodded. I know what this is about. She raised an eyebrow. Do you? She shouted something inappropriate. While I was delivering mail, I said. Back away, Pedo, to be specific, she said, not even blinking. My throat clenched. The room went quiet for a beat. Then she leaned forward. You understand how serious that word is, yes? I do, I said. And you understand why we have to treat any allegation, joke or not, with extreme caution. Yes. She sighed. Mr. Delaney, I believe you. I've looked into your background. I know you're her brother, her guardian. We've confirmed your employment. But this isn't just about you. What do you mean? She hesitated. Word spread fast. Students heard what your sister said. Teachers heard. Some parents overheard their kids retelling the story and have expressed concern. I could feel my hands clenching under the desk. Concern about what? About your presence on school grounds. About whether you should be making deliveries here. I just stared at her. I'm a mailman. It's my job. She gave a sad little nod. I understand. But perception matters. Especially in today's climate. We've had to contact your employer to explore whether this route is still appropriate. Jesus Christ. Let me get this straight, I said, my voice tighter than I wanted. My sister calls me a pedophile as a joke, publicly humiliates me, and now I'm the problem? She folded her hands calmly. No one's saying you did anything wrong, Mr. Delaney. But the situation has created tension. I laughed. It wasn't a happy laugh. You're afraid that if I show up again, some pissed-off parent's gonna call the cops or cause a scene. She didn't answer. I left that meeting with a sick feeling in my chest and a hollow spot in my gut where my dignity used to be. The next day, my supervisor pulled me aside and confirmed what I already knew. They were reassigning my route. No more school. No more neighborhood I knew. Back to some downtown mess with broken mailboxes and stairwells that smell like piss. I didn't say anything. Just nodded, took the new assignment, and walked out. When I got home that night, Lily was on the couch scrolling her iPad. Still grounded, apparently. Or maybe she thought I'd forgotten. Hey, I said. Calm. Cold. Did you tell anyone else at school that I'm not your dad? She didn't look up. Yeah. Why? And did you laugh when you did it? She smirked. It was a joke. Maddie thought it was funny. Well, it wasn't, I said. You cost me my route. You embarrassed me in front of an entire school. You started a rumor that could have gotten me arrested. She shrugged. It's not my fault people are stupid. No, it's your fault you were, I snapped. You made me look like a predator, Lily. That's not a prank. That's reputation ruining. She went quiet. You think I'm not a real parent? I asked. Fine. But real parents don't get to walk away. Real parents sit through meetings where they're treated like criminals. Real parents show up every single day even when it hurts. And real parents don't deserve this. I walked out of the room before I said something I couldn't take back. 3 days. That's how long it took before she finally broke the silence. I was in the kitchen, scraping together whatever I could find to make grilled cheese. We were down to a half loaf of bread, a block of cheddar that had started sweating in the fridge, and a butter stick so thin I had to scrape it with a spoon. The mail carrier's salary doesn't go far, not when you're also paying off a dead man's hospital bills and trying to keep a teenager in clean sneakers. Lily wandered in, barefoot, arms crossed, head down. She didn't say anything right away, just hovered by the counter like she was debating whether or not I was still worth talking to. I told Maddie I'm grounded, she said finally. She said your mustache looks like you kidnap people. I let out a slow breath. That's not an apology. She shrugged. It's not one. We stood there in awkward silence while the cheese sizzled and popped in the pan. The air was thick with all the things we weren't saying. I didn't want to fight. I didn't want to yell. I just wanted 5 minutes where I didn't feel like a stranger in my own home. I didn't mean for it to get you in trouble, she mumbled. You meant to humiliate me, though, I said. She flinched just barely. I thought it'd be funny. You know what's funny? I said, turning toward her. I've worked every single day since Mom died. No vacation. No sick days. I gave up finishing school. I gave up a relationship that maybe, just maybe, could have been something because I didn't want to bring a parade of people through your life. I've been trying to be there for you in every possible way. And the first time I get close to your world, you call me a predator. I wasn't yelling, but my voice had this sharp edge to it that even scared me a little. She looked down again. I didn't know it would matter that much. And that was the problem. She didn't know. She didn't see me. And before I could figure out how to respond, there was a knock at the door. It was nearly 8 p.m. I peeked through the peephole. And my stomach dropped. It was Aunt Heather. I hadn't seen her since Dad's funeral. My mom's sister. The kind of woman who always wore perfectly creased pants and used her soft, therapist voice even when she was ripping you apart inside. She'd offered to help out after Mom passed, but disappeared the second she found out she might actually have to take Lily in full time. I opened the door and stepped outside, pulling it mostly shut behind me. "Heather," I said flatly. She gave me that pity smile I remembered so well. "Daniel, what are you doing here?" "I got a call from Lily's school," she said, voice syrupy sweet. "They said there was some kind of incident." "Of course they did. And you drove all the way here?" I asked. After ignoring every birthday, every holiday, every emergency room visit? She blinked. I was worried. I thought maybe it was time to check in. I glanced back at the door, then back at her. "No. What you thought," I said, "was that maybe I'd screwed up badly enough for you to feel justified walking in and playing hero." She frowned. "You're clearly overwhelmed. You look exhausted. And Lily, she's a young girl. She needs structure. Support. She needs someone who doesn't vanish when things get hard." She didn't flinch, but her smile wavered. "I've raised her for 2 years," I said, my voice quiet but sharp. "Where were you when she had night terrors? When she cried herself to sleep because she thought cancer was contagious? When she started stealing her classmates' Lunchables because we couldn't afford groceries that week?" Heather opened her mouth, then closed it again. "You don't get to show up now," I continued. "You don't get to parade in here like some long-lost savior. We're not perfect, but we're surviving." She stood in silence. Maybe she expected me to beg for help. Maybe she thought I'd break down in tears and hand Lily over like some overwhelmed TV dad. Instead, I gave her the coldest smile I could muster and said, "We're fine." She looked past me at the door. "Can I say hi to her at least?" "Not tonight. Danu. Not tonight." I didn't slam the door in her face. I just shut it. Slowly. Calmly. When I turned around, Lily was standing in the hallway, her face pale. "You didn't tell me she was coming," she said. "Neither did she," I replied. "Seems to be a family trait." She looked at me for a long moment. Something in her expression had shifted, like a veil had dropped. She didn't look smug or sarcastic anymore. She looked small. Maybe even scared. "Do you want her to take me?" she asked. The question hit like a sucker punch. For a second, I couldn't speak. "No," I said finally. "But if you keep acting like I don't matter, one day someone might make that decision for us." She nodded slowly, then turned and went back to her room. I stayed standing in that hallway for a long time, heart pounding, feeling like the ground had just cracked under my feet. Things were quiet after Heather showed up. Too quiet. Lily wasn't pouting or stomping or slamming doors like usual. She did her chores, ate her dinner, even said thank you once. But it wasn't normal. It was rehearsed, like she was playing a version of herself that she thought I wanted. And that worried me more than any tantrum. I didn't push it. I figured maybe she was finally realizing this wasn't a game. That words had weight. That I wasn't just some loser with a mailbag, but the one person in her life who stayed. But then Thursday happened. I just finished my shift, wet from the rain, tired from hauling packages up 4-story walk-ups with no elevators, when my phone buzzed. It was Maddie's mom. We weren't exactly friends, but she was nice. She'd given Lily rides home, helped when I had to work late. The text just said, "Hey, just checking, did you really kick Lily out?" I stopped walking. I read it twice, then called her immediately. "Hi," she answered. "So, Lily's here, and she told Maddie you kicked her out because you think she ruined your life. That you're shipping her off to live with strangers." I didn't even know what to say. My jaw actually dropped. "I'm sorry to bug you," she said quickly, "but she's crying and I just wanted to check in." "I didn't kick her out," I said flatly. "She left without telling me." Again. She sighed. "Okay." I figured. "I'll bring her back." But Lily didn't want to come back. It took nearly 30 minutes for Maddie's mom to convince her to get in the car. And when she walked through the front door, soaking wet and scowling, she didn't say a word. I didn't either. I just sat there on the couch, exhausted. She stormed into her room and slammed the door so hard it rattled the frame. I waited 5 minutes, then knocked once and stepped inside. She was curled up on her bed, glaring at the wall. "You told Maddie's mom I kicked you out," I said. Silence. "You lied, Lily." Again. She rolled over. "What does it matter? You hate me anyway." "Hate you?" I asked, stunned. "Is that what you think?" She didn't answer. I walked over and sat at the edge of her bed. She didn't look at me, but she didn't move away either. "I get it," I said quietly. "You miss Mom. You're angry. And sometimes I'm the closest thing to blame." Her lip trembled, just slightly. "But don't you dare tell people I abandoned you. I have fought like hell to keep you with me. You don't know how close we were to losing everything." "You yelled at me," she whispered. "Because you scared me," I replied. "Because you said things that could have destroyed me. Not because I hate you." Her voice cracked. Then why does it feel like I ruin everything? That gutted me. You don't, I said, shaking my head. You're 13. You're not supposed to get it all right. But you have to stop treating this like a game. Because if something happens to me, there's no backup plan. She finally looked at me. Her eyes were red. I don't want to live with anyone else. Then don't make it easy for them to take you, I said. There was a pause. Then she whispered, I'm sorry. And for the first time in a long time, I believed her. Things didn't magically fix themselves after that night. There was no cinematic montage of laughter and pancakes and perfect mornings. What came instead were small shifts. Quiet ones. The kind that sneak up on you, almost too subtle to notice at first. But I noticed. Lily started spending more time in the living room instead of hiding out in her room. She'd linger after dinner, pretending to scroll her tablet, but I'd catch her watching me out of the corner of her eye. She asked fewer sarcastic questions. Even cleaned the bathroom once without being asked, which, in teenager language, is basically a signed peace treaty. I didn't bring up what she'd said. I didn't bring up the school, the rumors, or even her meltdown at Maddie's. I figured we both needed space to come back to each other in our own way. Then came the Sunday I'll never forget. I was working an extra route that day, Sunday Amazon parcels, long blocks with endless porches and no elevators. My feet were killing me and I had that deep kind of fatigue that settles in your bones. All I wanted was to collapse. When I walked in the door, the apartment smelled like lemon cleaner and burnt toast. The trash was out. Dishes drying on the rack. Her laundry folded on the coffee table. I blinked like maybe I'd walked into the wrong place. Lily was sitting at the kitchen table, hair in a messy bun, chewing on the end of a pen. In front of her was a crumpled sheet of paper and a half-empty bowl of cereal. Hey, she said, not looking up. I raised an eyebrow. What's going on? I need help, she said, then slid the paper toward me like it was radioactive. It was an assignment. A letter. The heading at the top read, write to someone you've never properly thanked. I sat down, unfolded it. The handwriting was messy, crossed-out words, bent corners, but the first line stopped me cold. Dear Dan, I used to think you were just pretending to be a dad. But now I know you're the only one who ever really tried. My eyes blurred for a second. I blinked fast. I didn't know what else to say, she muttered. I started it like 5 times. I cleared my throat. It's good. She snorted. It's cheesy. It's honest, I said. She tapped the table with her pen, then added, I talked to Ms. Thompson. From school. That got my attention. About what? I told her the truth. About the hallway. That it was a dumb joke. That it was me. I just stared at her. She said she'd fix whatever's in my file, she added quickly like it wasn't a big deal. But it was. It was the biggest deal of all. Because nobody told her to do that. Nobody forced her. She made that choice on her own. A choice to undo a little bit of the damage. A choice to stand up for the person who'd stood up for her. I wanted to say thank you. I wanted to hug her. But I didn't want to make it weird. Instead, I just said, that took guts. She shrugged. I figured it was time. Later that night, I made us both grilled cheese and tomato soup. Nothing fancy, just comfort food. She didn't take her plate to her room this time. She sat across from me, dunking her sandwich in the soup and pretending not to smile when I told a dumb joke about postal trucks. It wasn't perfect, but it was enough. After she went to bed, I pinned that letter to the fridge. Right between the overdue light bill and a crooked magnet that says, do your best. That's enough. For the first time in a long time, I believed it. She's still here. We're both still here. And that means I'm doing something right.